Your ancestors never once looked at a clock, and somehow they never missed a single sunrise. Right now, you know exactly what time it is. You glance at your phone, your wrist, a little clock in the corner of your screen, and you never think twice about it. But for over 99% of human history, that number didn't exist. There was no 3:47 p.m. There was no Tuesday. So how did your ancestors know when to hunt, when to plant, when to move, when to gather, when to sleep? The answer is stranger and honestly more impressive than you'd expect. Let's start with the most obvious clock humans ever had, the sky itself. The sun rises, crosses overhead, and sets. And that single arc gave every human on Earth a built-in schedule. Early humans tracked the sun's position using shadows, and some of the earliest deliberate shadow tracking tools we found are simple sticks planted upright in the ground, essentially crude sundials, going back thousands of years before anyone wrote anything down. But the sun could only tell you about a single day. To track something bigger, like a season, humans needed something else. They needed the moon. The moon is one of the most reliable clocks in the sky. It cycles through the same phases roughly every 29.5 days, over and over forever. And it turns out humans were counting those cycles a lot earlier than most people assume. In the 1950s, archaeologist Jean de Heinzelin excavated a small bone in what's now the Democratic Republic of Congo. It's called the Ishongo bone, and it's covered in deliberate grouped notches, roughly 20,000 years old. For decades, researchers argued about what those notches meant, but one of the leading interpretations, championed by researcher Alexander Marshak, is that this bone is a lunar tally. Someone was literally counting moons, scratch by scratch, thousands of years before anyone invented a written number system. And here's the part that still surprises people. This wasn't a one-off. Marshak studied dozens of engraved bones and antlers from Ice Age Europe and found the same pattern again and again. Small groups of marks that lined up almost perfectly with lunar cycles. If he's right, ancient humans weren't just noticing the moon. They were maintaining a calendar. On bone. By hand. Tens of thousands of years before Rome, before Egypt, before agriculture even existed.
But tracking the moon only gets you so far. To really survive, you needed to know something much bigger, when the seasons were about to turn. And for that, humans looked up again, but this time at the stars. Different constellations rise and set at different times of year, which means the night sky itself works like a giant, slow-moving calendar page. Hunter-gatherer groups tracked which stars appeared just before dawn to know when migratory animals were coming back, when certain plants would flower, when rivers would flood. This is where things get architecturally serious. At Stonehenge, the monument's main axis lines up with the sunrise on the summer solstice and the sunset on the winter solstice, almost perfectly. That's not an accident. That's a society spending generations moving multi-ton stones just to build something that could tell them with total precision exactly when the year had turned.
And Stonehenge isn't even the oldest example. At Göbekli Tepe in modern-day Turkey, a site built roughly 11,000 years ago by hunter-gatherers who hadn't invented farming or pottery yet, some researchers have proposed that carvings on one of the pillars may represent a solar calendar tracking the same summer solstice event. That claim is still debated among archaeologists, but even the debate tells you something. Humans were organising their entire social calendar around the sky long before they had a single word for calendar. Now, here's the twist almost nobody talks about. Your ancestors weren't only tracking time out there in the sky, they were also tracking it inside their own bodies. And so are you, right now. You have an internal clock running in your brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, and it keeps roughly a 24-hour rhythm completely on its own, even without sunlight.
Scientists have proven this by putting volunteers in caves and bunkers with zero natural light for weeks at a time. Every single person still woke up and got tired on a cycle close to 24 hours, even though their body had no external clue what time it was. Your ancestors weren't inventing time from nothing. They were syncing an internal clock they were already born with to the biggest, most reliable clock available, the sky above them. That's the real answer here. Ancient humans didn't need a wristwatch because they had 3 overlapping systems working together. The sun for the day, the moon for the month, the stars and the seasons for the year. And underneath all of it, a body that was already ticking along on its own rhythm, waiting to be synced to something bigger.
We didn't invent timekeeping. We just moved it. First, it lived in the sky, something everyone could see, something that connected an entire tribe to the same rhythm. Then it moved on to bone, scratched in by hand. Then into stone circles built to catch one specific sunrise a year. And now it lives in your pocket, silent, precise, and completely disconnected from the sky it used to depend on. So the next time you glance at your phone to check the time, remember what that number actually replaced. Not a machine, not a formula. Thousands of years of humans staring up at the same sun, the same moon, the same stars, and quietly, patiently, figuring out how to never lose track of where they were in the great slow turning of the year.